Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest, Jason, is the founder and mayor of PublicCity. Prior to founding PublicCity, Jason gained considerable experience working at various Detroit-based public relations agencies over the last 10 years, where he functioned as a media relations specialist. He has developed and managed communications programs and projects for leading companies such as Dunkin Donuts, eBay, and Microsoft, and also spent significant time working on various General Motors project work. Jason leverages his vast network of media and community contacts to benefit his existing clients. Jason is extremely connected with local, regional, and national media. Among the highlights of his accomplishments include placing various regionally based clients in front of the national media spotlight. Jason has secured national placements in Business Week, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Entrepreneur Inc., and Fortune Small Business. Outside of the agency, Jason is a past president of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, Michigan chapter, and currently sits on the board of directors for Yad Ezra and the Anti-Defamation League, Michigan. Jason is a graduate of Michigan State University, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in journalism. He currently resides in Beverly Hills, Michigan, with his wife, Hope, and two daughters, Eliza and Libby. Jason, thank you so much for agreeing to the podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation, but you do a thing or two. Do you keep yourself busy? Do you have time for anything? Jeez.
I make time for what I want to make time for. So yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Amazing. So I always like to start with my guests. I like to throw it way back to childhood. So what was your childhood like? Did you know you wanted to be in public relations, be an entrepreneur, or walk us through what that was like?
Definitely not an entrepreneur, but looking back, I remember as a kid writing sports books. Like I would find Pete Rose or some sports writer or sports player and want to write about them. So that was, probably when I was like 8 or 10, and then, just sort of gravitated towards journalism. So, always enjoyed the media, watching, reading, listening. So I thought, at the time, maybe I'd be the next great American sports journalist, perhaps.
You wrote books as a kid. That's incredible. Wow.
I want to temper that a little bit. I took a couple pieces of paper, cut them in half, and wrote some things about my favorite heroes. But it got me on the itch of where I thought I was going with my life, I guess.
Well, it's not fair because now kids 8 and 9-year-olds have social media and all these platforms to sell things. So if it were to happen now, I'm sure you could have sold it. So
that was before the interweb.
Before the interwebs, exactly. Now, so we transition into grade school, high school. You go to Michigan State. Did you know you wanted to be a journalism major from day one? Or what was that decision, A, to go to Michigan State, and B, the journalism route?
Yeah, so I will share with you that not because I was smart or anything, but I started, kindergarten a year early, and the high school that I was in, I graduated a year early. So I was 2 years ahead, not because I was a 4.2 student, but it just, for the way of the world, happened that way. So I was 16 when I graduated high school, and I decided not to go to out-of-town college. I actually got, a liberal arts degree at Oakland Community College, because I'm like, what is a 16-year-old going to do at Michigan State University? So I stayed home for a couple of years, got the electives out of the way, and then spent 2.5 years at Michigan State. At Oakland Community College, I learned quite a bit, made friends. They thought I was Doogie Howser because I was only 16. And some of these folks were like, I guess you call me, the Doogie Howser of OCC. But made some lifelong friends there, friends that one in particular, Eric Seals, who's now the Free Press, Detroit Free Press photo editor. So he worked on the OCC recorder because that was one of the things that I got to do, was be a sports reporter at 16 for the Oakland Community College. And then, I transitioned into Michigan State. I knew I was always a Spartan growing up. None of my family went there, but always gravitated towards the Spartans and, got in, was super excited. And then, sort of found my way to the State News, which is where I wrote for about a year and enjoyed that as well. Had a couple of great articles. We were there, when Magic Johnson announced that he had AIDS. To give you a sort of a time frame, but that was all hands on deck. So I got a, intro into breaking news, and sort of how that, worked out. So to answer your question, journalism was something that I always thought that I would go into, but obviously that shifted a bit over time.
Was the Magic Johnson announcement the biggest, I don't want to say memory you have, but like, oh my gosh, I remember right where I was and what happened there? Or were there other stories that you'll never forget when you were either reporting on or how that worked outside of that one?
Yeah, I would say that was one. That was probably the biggest one. And then I got an opportunity to interview NBA great, well, became an NBA great, Steve Smith. Steve Smith signed his first contract with the Miami Heat at the time, and I was assigned to the story to write the story about this MSU legend who rookie contract for the NBA. I got a chance to talk to him, and so that one I remember. But to answer your question, yeah, we were all sitting in the newsroom when that press conference hit for Magic, and we all got to work and, divided and conquered, different parts of the story. So, yeah, that was those two sort of stand out at my time there.
Wow. And then I know you started your career in different PR agencies and then went on your own. When you were working for these other corporations, or I guess even yourself there, but have you had a favorite either account or project work that you really enjoyed working with?
Yeah. So I'm going to take a step back to go two steps forward, if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
So, after Michigan State, I got a couple of jobs in writing, to being the next great sports writer, journalist. I remember I was doing movie reviews for the Observer Eccentric, but, again, quickly realized that while that was my passion, it wasn't necessarily adding up to dollars. So I did go to Specs Howard after Michigan State because I thought, oh, maybe this radio thing would be kind of cool. I want to get it to meet other media, outlets, and, worked at WJR. Then there was a station called WYUR Radio where it was a talk show producer. And those things, again, didn't make a lot of money, but got me a lot of knowledge, expertise, contacts. And one day I was sitting there and this gentleman by the name of Fred Marks owned a PR firm, Marks Lane and Company, and said, you seem like a good guy. You ever think about PR? Never thought about it in a million years, but said, what are you making now? I said, oh, about 18 grand. He said, well, I can up that by about 12,000. So you'll be at 30. And I said, all right, when do I start? So, I tell that story because I want to let your viewers, listeners know that, what sort of made me a little different than maybe some other PR people is that, I worked on the other side prior to jumping into the, the PR industry. So now to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I was always interested in media, and so it really intrigued me to get into public relations. I didn't know, obviously, the business side of things. I sort of had to learn as we went because, again, in PR, it's not just as simple as, calling a reporter and getting a story. That's what I love to do. But, obviously, there was that business side of things. But, yeah, over the years, I've had some fun because public relations can be fun sometimes. We do crisis communications, obviously, when needed. I don't like to promote that I do crisis communications, like, hey, come to me when you have a problem. But when they do have a problem, they do call us. So, I remember working for a local PR firm, Hermanoff, and we had a client. It was Caesars Windsor, the casino. And they came to us and they said, we want to do something. They were opening up in Windsor, just to give you a sense of, what was happening. We want to do something that's never been done before. And while that sounds awesome, there aren't many things that haven't been done before.
Right.
So I brainstormed with the team and I came up with the world's largest toga party. Because they're Caesars, they're Greek, let's go for the Guinness Book of World Record for the world's largest toga party. And they said to me at the time, Jason, that is a great idea. We love it. It's amazing, but it's a little too over the top of what we wanted to do. So go back to the drawing board and find something else that has never been done before. So I took it as a challenge, even though I was sort of disappointed that they didn't want to do it. And I'll never forget, I was driving down Jefferson and I turned and I looked and I saw a line at the tunnel. And I said, I wonder if anybody has ever sponsored the tunnel before. And I called the tunnel authority. It was a great conversation. I remember the gentleman's name was Neil. His last name is escaping me at the moment, but he said, no one has ever asked us that before. And I said, okay, I'm in, whatever it takes. So I went back to the client. I said, hey guys, here's the idea. We pay your way into Windsor on a Sunday, Caesars Windsor. They said, Jason, that is the best idea we've ever heard. We love it. We're going to do it. And then obviously we got a ton of media attention for it because once people heard that it was free to go to Windsor for the afternoon, courtesy of Caesars Windsor, it was a home run. And that sort of got my PR juices flowing as far as so when a client says it's never been done before, we try to do our best to find something that's unique for them.
What an idea to come up with. I mean, going from one end of the spectrum of toga party to let's sponsor your entry into it. I mean, I just have so much respect for creative individuals like yourself, anyone in PR. I'm learning more as a business owner, the importance of PR. I mean, I don't know if I told you this when we met the first few times, but I actually was going to school. I thought my senior year of high school, I'd go to be a journalist. So mad respect for all that you do, of course. Ended up in psychology and now I'm writing resumes. So full circle, but it's so funny. But maybe this is a dumb question, but it's so funny because I work with people that are so, you have the whole left brain, right brain thing. But what in your mind, and especially being one of the experts in your industry, how do you think of these creative ideas, or what makes you say damn, that's a good idea, or ooh, maybe not?
So I will tell you that I am grounded in really two words, and it's common sense. And I wish more people had those words on top of mind, especially these days. So when somebody asks me, what should we do here? I always go back to those two words. And what does common sense tell you to do? So if you, not that I'm recommending this to anyone, but if you punch somebody in the face and you hurt them, you should probably say you're sorry for that.
Fair. Yeah.
And if you do something great, like holding a door open for somebody, they should probably say thank you for doing that. So to answer your question, it really is, for our clients, I really try and hammer home that common sense theme of, and I use those two words probably more than most people do, but I'm a firm believer in it. I think we've sort of lost common sense and compassion somewhere along the line. I'm not sure where, but we don't have to get into that today, but, and even on social media, you'll find hashtags from me called the Common Sense Crusade, because that is something that I'm trying to remind people, not to judge or, make them do something that they don't want to do, but just a friendly reminder that common sense can go a long way these days.
Yes, it's so funny you bring that up because that has been a topic amongst myself, my employees, my entrepreneur friends, just everyone lately. It's where do we go wrong and what span of things? What's the issue here? Because we're seeing that a lot too, or the whole compassion thing, or just, why are you immediately going to assume someone's in the wrong, or just go straight from 0 to 100% anger for no reason at all? But such a great reminder. That could be a whole other podcast we could probably speak on for 2 hours, but
I'm ready anytime. The Common Sense Crusade.
Amazing. We already got a title too, so we got this. Common Sense Crusade. That's amazing. Now, when you work for other agencies, at what point did you decide I could do this on my own or start your own entrepreneur journey?
Well, I wish I would have thought about it sooner, but it was the last agency I worked for. It was about 6 months before I left. Basically, what happened was I was at a networking event, and this was at Meadowbrook Insurance in Southfield. And my boss at the time called me once. I was in the middle of the networking and didn't think much of it. A couple of minutes later, get a second call from her, and I said, all right, this is odd. Maybe there's something going on. I should step out, see what's up. And, the call, she had said, so where are you? I said, oh, I'm at Meadowbrook Insurance. Well, what are you doing there? If you're pitching new business, then shouldn't I be there too? And I took a minute and I said, yes, you should be if I was pitching new business. But you'll see on my calendar, it says that it's a networking event and I'm networking trying to find new business. So I'm not meeting with Meadowbrook Insurance at the moment. And, I could hear the pause and say, okay, well, see me when you get back. And I was like, all right, talk to you later. It was just at that moment that there was no trust. There was no feeling of I was doing the right things and helping grow the agency I was working for. And I just said, you know what? I need to do this myself. And so I went to my wife at the time, who I met at a PR firm, by the way. So we work together now.
That's funny.
And I said, I want a new job. And she said, great. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to start my own agency. And she said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. But she was supportive. And, I left with no clients, no revenue, just this idea that there was at the time, a PR guy that could help people, with their PR needs locally. And she said, look, you got 3 to 4 months, because that's all about what we have saved away. So if you can't make it work in 3 to 4 months, I know you're talented, you'll find another job, but, go on your entrepreneurial journey and see what happens. And I can tell you, October of this year will be at the 15th year anniversary. So
wow,
I think we, made the right call. And she joined about 10 years ago, about 4 or 5 years into the agency. She was working for another large agency, and she had to do some overnight calls from Dubai, and it was just a little much and for work, that you have to stay up at 12:30, 1 o'clock to do a conference call. And I said, look, agency's still growing. We got plenty of work. You could work from the office, work from home, whatever you had to do. And so it's been a nice, both professional and personal relationship for the last 11 years or so.
That's incredible. And it's so funny because I feel like every entrepreneur says the same thing. I wish I would have thought of this sooner, did this sooner, but time's not always right. But 15 years, that's incredible. Well, congratulations on that. That's not an easy feat to do. And especially, let's see, 08, 09 recession, pandemic. You can list a lot of things you've gone through in your time.
Yeah, that's, I think, why, when I said I'm going to start my own, she just thought it wasn't the best time. She didn't necessarily think that I couldn't do it, but she just thought, given the economy at the time, it's probably wasn't the best time. But, we took a shot. I had a, 3 to 4 page business plan that I put together for her to show what I thought we could do. Luckily, I'd like to say that, I haven't pissed off too many people in this area that, I also tell people I'm batting 90-10. There's 90% that like me, there's 10% that don't. And I got to focus on the 90 to, keep going.
Right. That's been another reoccurring theme. You don't like everyone. I don't like everyone. Why do we care if everyone likes you? You shouldn't.
Exactly.
Now, I want you to take the time to go over the importance of a good PR firm and why you're different, because, and maybe this is just me thinking this, but I feel there is a big gap of people that do not understand what's important as a PR firm, all the back end work you do to make a rebranding successful, a big announcement successful, an opening successful. But walk us through why your firm especially is important or different, or what services you offer.
Sure. So we're a little different in the sense of we're not a full service agency. And what I mean by that is, when I started it, I didn't want to be something for everybody. I didn't want to be somebody who offered media relations, digital marketing, social media, advertising, marketing. I could keep going for the next 2-3 minutes, but you get the point that I didn't want to put on my website that I had 20 different disciplines that I could offer you. So we specialize in really 2 areas: media relations and community relations. So the media relations, the publicity, thus the name PublicCity. I had one lady say, I don't get it. I said, well, then I can't work with you. I'm sorry if you can't get it.
Common sense. Back to that.
Right. Common sense. And then community relations, my first PR job that I was talking about earlier with a local company, Marks Lane, that Fred Marks, who has since passed away, he really taught me the power of a relationship and what a relationship means in business. And I sort of, followed that lead as far as interns, junior producers, all the way up to the anchors. No one is more important than somebody else. So, to answer your question, it's really about what you're looking for. Are you looking for someone to, up your social media game, digital marketing or advertising? What are the things that you need? And then find specialists in those areas, because, this might upset a few people, but I believe that there's not one agency that can handle it all. And if they tell you you can, I would do your homework and see if they really can, because, there are some companies that say they do social media and themselves have, 125 followers. And it's like, okay, well, are you really into social media if you only have even 200 followers? We can debate that. But so when we're asked for those things, because we are, can you handle our Facebook? Can you handle, our Instagram posts or photos, those types of things? We never say no to a client, but we go to experts in those fields and partner with them. And it's a win-win for everybody because, they're specialists in their areas. I'm a specialist in mine. So, those clients are getting, sort of top-notch experience and not somebody who's pretending to be experts in, a variety of disciplines.
And that's such a great point because I think a lot of people try to do one-stop shop, which nothing wrong with that, but why are you different? And I see that a lot too. So great point to bring up. Now, what exciting things do you have in store for this next year or anything that you want to self-promote or talk about that we can look for?
Some people, they often call me the wizard, meaning that I'm the man behind the screen, the curtain. Don't put myself out there too much. I appreciate being on the podcast, and I'm more than happy to give wisdom and, hopefully help a few folks along the way. But I will say that personally, I'm excited to do 15th anniversary event for our company coming up, to celebrate that with past and present clients, probably more present than past, but we'll invite a few past. And then what I'm excited about is, just some of the names of clients that, we've been able to work with, people like Hollywood Casino, and we do also a lot of nonprofits as well, like the Detroit PAL and the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and Higuera Health and Covenant House, Michigan, which is great. So just the idea that these folks are entrusting us with their public relations needs. And I enjoy what I do. Every day is different, get to do what I want to do. If we were going to be on this podcast for 8 hours today, not that we're going to, but if we were, nobody's over my shoulder saying, will you get off now? I need to talk to you. So my life changed for the better 15 years ago. Not that it wasn't great already, but just was even more enriched in the sense of I got to do what I wanted to do on my own terms and, help people the way I think they should be helped. So I think it's just really a matter of who the clients are. We work really hard for them on a daily basis. And if somebody can't see that, that's okay. I'm not going to try and convince you, but I will say that there are dozens of others who can do what it is that you're looking for. A couple of days ago, I turned 52 and I realized what's important every day. And, again, clients are the backbone of our business, but in the end, they hire us for a reason to be counselors to them. And if you don't want to listen to the counsel, then why are we working together? Many of them do, obviously. They love us for what we do and the coverage that we get for them. And that's what sort of keeps me focused on a daily basis.
Well, happy belated birthday, first
Thank you.
of all. Now, you kind of already started on the words of wisdom, but I always like to wrap up every podcast with piece of advice. It could be anything. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. But if you could either tell your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, listeners, any piece of advice, what would you say?
I would say a couple things. One is I'm a believer that anybody who's watching this is a subject matter expert in something. So take that subject matter expertise, send an email to a media person to see if they want to get to know you because of your subject matter expertise. Some people are often reluctant to do something like that. And media is looking for good content, good sources. So I would recommend doing that. Now, one of the other philosophies of the agency is give to get. What are you giving, in this case, the media or the community, to get what it is that you're looking for? So if you're looking for a story, you got to give them good content versus you have a 50% off sale today. Or if you're looking to do good in the community, give a nice donation and the charity will say nice things about you. But I'll give a little caveat. Give because you want to give. Don't give because, you might get something nice in return. So I think those things are things that folks should think about.
It's so true. not what's in it for you, but what you can do to help other people. So I'm a big believer the universe will figure it out and come back to you, but it's such a great reminder too. Well, Jason, you have given so many words of wisdom. You should promote yourself more and do these things more because you're really freaking good at it. So how are you going to be? But I get it because you're in PR, so it's hard to promote yourself. I don't like writing about myself and I write for a living, so I get it. But still, Jason, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
And for those of you listening, if you want to follow Jason, see what he's up to in the next year, head to the show notes to reach out to him, to follow him on social media. And tune in next week for another episode of That's Business.
If you're looking for a career change and you're not sure where to start, the Resume Rescue can help. Sure, there's no such thing as the perfect fit for everyone, but here at the Resume Rescue, we're on a mission to find the perfect solution for you. Whether it's changing careers, updating a resume, learning LinkedIn, or practicing interviewing, we have you covered. Find us online at theresumerescue.com and find all of our contact info in our show notes.